go ahead and introduce yourself and quickly explain Wildkind Academy as well before you kind of go into the timeline of your connection to the outdoors.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jess Caldwell, and I'm the founder of Wildkind Academy that is just launching this year. I would say it's my COVID baby, something very special that's happened since the world changed on us in this last year. And Wildkind Academy is a platform of education. It's right now it's this website that I've just launched, but I am currently offering mentorship through lifestyle design, rewilding, which is my favorite topic, outdoor wilderness awareness, outdoor skills, and holistic health, and all things nourishing for mind, body, and soul. So I am really putting myself out there in a mentorship space, but also Wildkind Academy is something bigger than that. It is right now I've been currently offering rewilding courses, and some of those courses so far have been me partnering with other outdoor leaders who are bringing in unique skills. And we've had an online course, which was the Intro to Fish Tanning, which we recently did with a beautiful instructor, Janie Chang, who teaches this traditional skill that was the original waterproofing of clothing, actually,
Wow. Yeah.
which is taking fish skins and turning them into, for our shoes. And,
Yeah,
this
I
is,
saw
yeah,
that.
I made earrings out of mine. I don't have them on, but so this is a beautiful skill. And because I fish and love to use the whole, all of the animal and all of what I'm out harvesting, this was a really great connection to be able to turn that into leather. So that was a recent course we just did, and I have an upcoming basket weaving course that's taught by Karen Sherwood, who is founder of Earthwalk Northwest, and she's been teaching wild foraging and all sorts of fantastic ancestral skills, but she is a master basket weaver, and she's coming to our area here in Olympia and will be teaching a forager's basket. She came maybe 2 months ago, and we made pack baskets, but now it's a forager's basket. So that's happening. I partnered with Bruce McGlynn with Human Nature Hunting, and he came down to Hood Canal area and taught for Wildkind Academy a shellfish forage event. And we had a feast on the beach with our find, and actually had a man with Truth in Food. His name is Chef Toss, and he came and did this feast for us. So I'm really out there, really making partnerships with the people I admire who are doing great work with whether it's food, whether it's outdoor skills, and plugging those into the rewilding courses. I'd like to be able to host some rewilding courses myself as I'm opening this up and plugging in my calendar and what the future looks like. And coming soon will be the Wildkind Academy online course, and that would be launching a 101 course, a rewilding 101 course that I'm writing that would be available online for anybody. So that's the biz that's being birthed and nurtured at this time.
I love it. I really want to go to that basket weaving, the foraging basket weaving class that you posted. I noticed it's from 9 to 5. Does that mean the whole time you're weaving? Does it take that long?
It really does. Yeah, it's a full day to create this basket. We take a few breaks, but really you're weaving the whole day because you want to get that basket done and have a completed project to bring home.
Yeah, how fun.
And
Imagine.
it has a shoulder strap, so you wear it over your shoulder and it sits on your hip, and you can take it out for harvesting your things growing around you in the backyard or out on the trail. So it's a beautiful basket to have.
Fun. How fun. And is that for women only? No.
Nope.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's open to whoever hears the call.
Yay. So you've been
Yeah.
working with so far like other people who kind of have specific niches and experiences outside of learning from them. Do you have experience and just going outside? And I love all your videos and photos of fishing and hiking,
Oh, thank you.
exploring. But what does your experience look like at this point, and how did you get to this point of even getting into this industry in this world? Like, is this new for you?
Yes. Well, yes and no. So I have been really holding myself in the professional world for the last, I guess, once I became a mom and I had a divorce and it was time to get my own place, I, I entered that professional world where I needed to make sure I had my income and everything. And it really was a beautiful part of my life to be working full time and so busy and raising the two kids. And so really I had all focus on, on my track, which was really had a professional thread for the last probably 10 years or so. And it wasn't until COVID happened. And at the time I was the marketing and sales director for the Washington Center for the Performing Arts, a beloved job for me. I really loved my role there, but our theater closed and I found myself, kind of needing to reinvent myself again and remembering what it is that lights my fire, and finding myself asking some pretty deep questions about what is my dharma, what am I here to do, because I know there's more. And so I've really launched this last year into being wide open to what that is, and saying I'm at 100% commitment to diving into all the things I love and lifestyle design. That's just this big piece where as the creator of the design of my life, it has felt very important at this time to not wait another day to step into this mapping of what my present and future holds for myself. Now, I've always been very much involved with, I'm a life learner. So I have taken some very interesting tracks in my life on the things that I have learned and taken in. And I think the interesting thing is they're actually all finally coming together under this umbrella of Wildkind Academy. I would think a lot of my friends would probably say, Jess, you are all over the board with what you've done in the last 10 years.
Beautiful.
And now it makes sense. And so just to name a few, I was a yoga instructor for 20 years, and I did education up into the 500 hours of yoga and meditation training, which has been, very interesting, very wonderful path for me. It got me out of fear-based living, truly, to live and breathe the yogic lifestyle.
Yes.
But that shifted a bit for me too. I found myself not, just the flame wasn't there for me. I stopped teaching. I love taking yoga classes, but I stopped teaching at some point. And I got into, through a very long story, so I won't completely get into it, but let's just say at a very low time in my life, I got into cemetery sales. And it was literally when things were, it was the divorce. I had a sick boy. I had, a boy that was going through many health challenges. I lost a career path that was challenging. And I lost my father. Things just happened. And I went into cemetery sales literally walked in the door and said, do you have a job for me here? I wanted to, oddly enough, I was drawn to understanding a little bit more about death.
Wow, that is
And
interesting. Huh.
it was really interesting. And the friends who knew me just thought they couldn't understand how someone they perceived as very bubbly and, with their yoga instructor entering, excuse me, cemetery sales. Well, I learned a lot in the 2 years that I was there, and it was a healing experience for me. I was around people who had either just lost somebody or was about to lose somebody, or truly around folks who had passed away, and I was witnessing what death looked like and felt like. And it was a visceral experience for me. And what I can tell you is that every day I left work, I felt actually more alive than I had felt in a while. I felt like nothing could be as bad as death. And that if you're alive and you're breathing and you have a body that can take you on a journey, then you are doing all right. And it was a healing part of my life. And from that, when I left the industry, because it truly is an industry, with sales as the bottom line. And like any industry, there's wonderful people and there's people who really manipulate the situation and for the sake of a sale. But I left and I started studying holistic end of life practices. I became a death doula. I took a hospice training course and I wanted to sit with the dying. And I started learning about green burial and conservation burial and what was possible to reconnect us with this natural life cycle that actually we're so tuned into in this day and age. Birth, and we have now midwives and doulas, and there's a lot of education and an open conversation around it. But on the end of life, it's still a very taboo topic that people can often feel uncomfortable speaking about or talking about. And so I became an educator for end of life practices, holistic end of life conversation about what's possible to heal ourselves, even as our living beings now, in an empowered way around death care and around how we might treat end of life just as sacred as the beginning of life. And it was this track I took for a while that was wonderful. I met so many great people and I really got into conservation at that time because of the green burial and learning so much about land and the importance of of our resources. So that really created a conservation thing in me, which is really connecting right now to what I'm going through as I discover and take on this path of hunting and fishing, because oddly enough, it's all very much connected as I'm building independence and sovereignty through where I get food. And then with that, I also have always had a background in health and nutrition. My degree is in health and wellness promotion from Portland State University in Oregon. And I have gone through extensive health coaching training and have just always loved being just somebody's cheerleader for feeling good and nourishing themselves. So I'm pulling that thread in along with my love of the outdoors and plants. I took an ethnobotany course years ago and the study of medicinal edible plants that grow here in the Pacific Northwest. So I've always been taking these little pieces of things that I have interest in, and now they're all coming together. And so this was a very long-winded answer to your question, what are you I've had other instructors come in, and where am I bringing this work in for me? So I'm considering myself, or maybe I'm self-stating that I am a professional rewilder. No, I made that up. And that my job is to help rewild myself and be a support network for anyone else who feels drawn to this work, because I think there is a thread that everyone can relate to, that things feel a little different right now. We're all being called to live more fully, to feel more fully, and to engage and feel this sense of aliveness where so much around us feels contracting. And yet I feel like our spirits are wanting to expand. And so that was your long answer.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't know anything about your experience with death too. And isn't that funny how it all is connected and playing a
It
role
is.
in what you're doing now. Everything is for a reason. So
It is. And I spent so much time when I was doing yoga and meditation and what I would call maybe a spiritual journey for many years. I spent so much time in meditation and going inward, and it felt very intangible for me. I think maybe that's one reason I've shifted into something that I can actually bite into, because I know I'm a spiritual being, and I know there's a sense of connection that I crave, that I need to feel. But for me and my personal journey, I've needed something I can literally put my hands into and dig my feet into
Mhm.
and feel that I am welcome here on this planet Earth in this body. And so I'm really bridging this spiritual path with really a physical path, which is saying I am at home and I am embodied here in Earth. And the way for me to do that is right now isn't necessarily so much inward as it is completely being a participant in the natural world. And that is through the food I eat and the animals I observe and the the rivers I take a plunge in and the sunsets I watch. I mean, that to me has been actually more profound and having more of a sense of I guess awakeness, aliveness than I've had in a long time. I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yes, yes, I do. So, had your experience working with so many people that were close to death and relating that experience to the life cycle of ourselves and the animals and the flora and the fauna that you interact with now, has that changed your outlook on the afterlife at all?
I think for many years I think most humans we could all relate to the fact that there's this great unknown called what's after
Mhm.
death, what happens to us. And I've always been a seeker for sure. And because I was not raised in religion, but had a father that took me out in on trail hikes and on, we had horses and we were out trail riding and we'd be just sipping, out of the river and he'd be like, this is a good time to pray,
Yeah.
right? This is a good time to commune with with the spirit world right here, right now. This was this is what we had, or at least that was my spiritual background because it wasn't religion. And when he died, I think it really, and he died suddenly and tragically, and I just think it made me question everything of our time here and what's important. And I really needed to understand for myself some kind of relationship with being alive and the obvious path that we're all on, which is an eventual death, and not necessarily, and be able to integrate that so that I can live joyously and be comfortable with the circle of life,
Yes.
because that is for me, as this is what I'm seeking and wanting to really understand and feel. So yes, I think working and witnessing, because I was living on the island of Kauai at the time when he died, and I didn't get to go to I didn't witness him or his suffering or anything. I literally flew back to Oregon and was handed a cremated cremation box, which was such a disconnect to say, gosh, I just talked to him and now this, and I really couldn't process the two. And 100 years ago, we lived in a time where if someone was dying or a death occurred, it was a communal process. It was a family process. You had time to be with your loved one, um, even through the suffering. You had time to, when a death occurs, have your ceremony, have your ritual, clean that person, take care of that person, and then walk hand in hand with your neighbors or your community or your family out to a property or out to the land and dig a hole. And it was this whole hands-on process that after you have worked all day digging a hole, you're sweating, you're working, maybe you're crying, but you're part of it. You're a participant in the life cycle and the care. And there is something of, I believe, closure that was given at that time that we often are missing now, which is a death occurs, we call a funeral home. They come at any hour. Someone who really has no experience in human relations shows up, takes that person, zips them in a bag, takes them away. And then the next time you're seeing them, it's either they're embalmed with makeup on and hair fully done, which also is not right. That's not how death looks. Or they're cremated or something of that nature, and you're not, it's a disconnect. So I do think there's healing that can be, that we all could just have to have a little more of a place of claiming death care. And because it's part of nature, it's part of our human nature and why we're here and what we do, that we can handle these things. Hard things happen, and we have all the skill sets to have ceremony, connection, and grief, all that we can do this. So that's how I got into the home funeral education and teaching people that that's legal in all of the states to be able to care for your own at the time of death. And anyway, that's, that's the death talk, but it certainly is relevant when it comes into watching and observing nature as closely as I'm diving in at this time, whether it's catching fish and eating, bringing that fish home, or what I'm studying now, which is this path of the hunter, and being more connected to the food sources and where our food's coming from, and the connection to the animal, to be able to say, I witnessed your life and I witnessed your environment, and now we have this exchange, and it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, and it's a common theme that we talk about on Our Outdoors Explored, and I know that you talk about in the rewilding process, that we are so disconnected, and that a lot of our healing and our understanding comes from those moments of connection. Even now, as a sensitive, elevated, modern species, we see as too painful to observe or just too hard. We are so sensitive to these things that really help develop us and are part of the human experience. So I'd love it if you could just define what rewilding is to you in that sense.
Yeah, you that's great what you just said, because it made me think of a few things. So we, in our modern society, we are, here we are, these animals, these humans, and yes, we are elevated of mind, and we are experiencing self-actualization that we have not probably had the time to explore in any form of modern history. So here we find ourselves in this unique period of time, which I love being alive right now, by the way. I do think it's a challenging time, and there's a lot of nostalgia around the past and how maybe simple, or going back to a simpler time. But I love being alive right now. I feel like we're here for a purpose at this time, this really unique time. And I also feel like we could slowly just retract into a very small world if we're not rewilding. And what that small world is truly, we're bombarded with everything. We're becoming detached from everything of our natural cycles and our natural awareness. So when we spend all day at work, or all day at home, or all day on Zoom, or in front of a computer, we have now narrowed our eyes to just looking at the screen or looking at our phones, and we have lost expansion of the view from just our senses. The temperature inside of our homes are being controlled 100% of the time, so that we are also losing our skin, and just even the receptors of our skin is getting numbed or dulled down. We've got food available to us in the refrigerator at any moment. We can open a can of something or eat something out of the pantry, so we're not working hard for our food at all. And it's like every aspect of our life is really closing us in until it almost feels like being an animal in a zoo, where we're just creatures in a cage. And so the rewilding process for me is getting into the uncomfortable, to build more resiliency back, and to build intuition back, and to build that primal nature that gives us strength, that we can do anything and we can handle anything. And so by rewilding, it's a training of mind, body, and spirit, of the resiliency. I could call many things rewilding. You could rewild your diet by adding in some wild weeds that are growing out in your front yard. You can rewild your diet by bringing in fish that you've caught, or that you have, or wild game. That is a rewilding in essence. Totally different type of meat with different type of energy, or different plants that have, well, let me back up. Wild plants to me are the most badass, resilient things going on, because you take something that doesn't need to be watered, that doesn't need much light, can grow through the cracks of concrete. These plants are resiliency to their core. Something in their DNA has the ability to survive and thrive. And there's nutrients. And so to take in some weeds growing that are actually have nutrient dense, or sprinkling them into your diet a little bit here and there, I do think there's something in the essence that I believe is powerful to our bodies, if we are to speak in terms of cells and energy and this exchange. So that's one way to rewild. We might be rewilding our spirit by making bold moves, brave moves, to feel uncomfortable and get ourselves into uncomfortable situations, as long as we're not out being reckless, but taking ourselves out of our comfort zone. And it's okay to get a little hot or a little cold, or jumping into a cold river, or doing things that maybe is not temperature controlled, because that starts to awaken our senses and the receptors on our bodies again. That's a rewilding. We might also be rewilding our, I mean, truly, it does, to me, it's such a big picture of, it's everything. So rewilding is a big word for me, but there's so much we can do, and it doesn't mean you have to be somebody who goes out and hikes every weekend. There's so many people who don't have the opportunity to get out and put on hiking boots and take on a big trek. And it's also important to know that everybody can bring in some form of rewilding, and it doesn't require, to have huge outdoor skills. It can be changing your temperature control and opening up the windows and getting barefoot outside and grounding yourself in the earth and observing a sunrise.
I love how approachable your mindset is around it. Sometimes I feel like rewilding completely can't be done these days, because even if you are regulating your temperature and opening up windows and going in your backyard barefoot, you're in a backyard with lawn that was fertilized. And sometimes I feel like that real connection can never be completed again, and that we're just working with the minimal opportunity that we have you kind of explored that thought process?
I think about it all the time. I think we live in this the dichotomy that we live in right now, this time where city centers are massive, and they're growing constantly, and it's where people are drawn to now live in city centers, and it is very convenient, and it really supports our current the jobs are in the cities, the things are in the cities.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to live rural, and if you are living rural, it's you're probably a farmer, or you have the independence to live outside of a city center. So yes, this is a really interesting conundrum about this time right now. And I do sometimes feel like I'm just swimming in the current, sometimes just swimming in place, because of how challenging it is, and how challenging it can be to make these efforts to rewild our lives. And yet it is the thing, I think everyone maybe is when there's that thing that just sits as an unsettling vibe in our bodies, that we're missing something. I know this is the thing that we're missing, which is the foundation of what it means to be human on earth. and that we actually are born and built to engage nature and the seasons and have wisdom that comes from all of the gifts of the outdoor life, and nature comes to us through the interaction, through the engagement. So if we shut ourselves off from it, we just are missing something, and we're missing information, uh, really important information. The planet is talking to us at all times, and this is very true in nature. When you go out and you hear stories about if a storm's coming, the birds know that, and they take action. The animals know that, and they take action. If an earthquake is coming, there are signs in nature that communicate to one another. Well, we have these receptors as well to know when nature is talking to us, but we do have to be a participant in order to get that sensitivity. And so this is the upward battle when we live in city centers and we are removed from that for most of our day. And I do feel like it's a discipline, just like it was a discipline for me to sit down in meditation for a half an hour, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours. This is the new discipline, which is it's never been an easy path to find our bliss. It's like it takes work. And yeah, so you live in a city center and your grass is, it might even be turf. It might even not even be real. but but just to even get outside and expose your skin to, even on a cloudy day, you're going to get some of that vitamin D. You're going to get some of those elements. Our brains are wired. When you get out and you nature bathe, it's going to change your brain. And most cities have parks that they are, in part of their city planning. And so get to the park and be comfortable with taking off some layers and letting your skin be exposed, and lying down and feeling, let your feelers in and let yourself commune with the earth a bit, because that will do some good. That would be, and if you can't leave your home, if you're stuck at home because something's going on with your body that you can't leave, open up the windows and feel the breeze, because it's going to come in and you'll feel it and you'll capture it, and then ask that breeze to take you on a journey so that you're experiencing and exploring your own version of connection, because even that would be different than shutting the windows, turning on the TV, and tuning out. So even those subtleties, I feel, have value.
Do you feel, I want to get into your upcoming programs and everything, but do you feel like the reason why we often just shut our windows, get in our car, go to work, we're on our computer all day, come home and we want to just turn on the TV, is because we are craving that escape and that connection and that freedom from the pressure, and that we might just be utilizing technology in a way that we should really be utilizing nature for?
Well, yeah, not only are we creating constant serotonin hits where we're needing to feel good, because we don't feel good. And so the more we don't feel good, the more you get a quick hit when you check your phone because there's a notification, and then your brain gets that serotonin plug. So then you're okay for a moment. Or you've got, you get in your car and you're going to, turn on your music and you're going to get a hit, which is great. It gives you your brain that hit. You get home and you turn on your favorite show and you're going to get that hit. So it's truly the matrix stuff. I mean, we are living in matrix times where what we are given feels like freedom, and yet it isn't. we're very much not free when we are in those patterns of needing very limited, very short burst serotonin hits.
Yeah.
That is not necessarily nurturing us, and it keeps us in a place of needing more. And I think I remember hearing some scientific number that you need 3 days unplugged to truly get out of the matrix a bit. And that like 3 days does a lot. And so I love it when I have opportunities in the backcountry to have not even cell reception for 3 days, because then your brain shifts from these quick, immediate gratification hits. It takes a little while, but pretty soon you're now tuned into something that has a more longer term thread of energy, of peace, of relaxation that truly does feel like rest,
Yes.
of my brain. Like the brain fog goes away, and then there's some new clarity or some sense of, oh, this is what peace is, and this is what it feels like to feel okay. Um, yeah.
Isn't it funny how when we're just going about our daily life, we feel like all of these little things are such big deals, right? And we complicate them and we overanalyze them and we get anxious about them. And that when you are disconnected, and for me too, when I'm in the backcountry, I will physically feel myself just feeling lighter and ask myself,
Mhm.
why am I making such a big deal about this stupid job or a person that I'm not even close with them, you know, but I was talking with someone earlier about how it really does feel that heavy, and that pressure does feel so real when you aren't connected to your intuition and to your soul purpose and to everything.
Yeah, and I think when we're in it, like we are right now, the grid is so electric and so electrodynamic, and so we're constantly feeling, and I know I felt this with this last year, with everything that happened with COVID and with politics and with social issues that were hot topics. Everyone was charged, and you could feel that charge. The charge was coming at us in all ways, which and so you feel energy. We are energetic beings, and our brains are receptors, and we're going to pick up on subtleties and gross, meaning big, gross energies and subtle energies. We're going to pick up on it, all of it. And so many people that at least I spoke with, and I can imagine many people in this last year especially, have felt the heaviness of energy of so many people, especially since we're all compacted. We all live in the very, in city centers, we all live through Zoom and through web and through text and through phones. You're getting hit all the time with not only your own whatever you're picking up, but what other people are putting out. And so we are feeling all of that. And our sensitivity is becoming also, there's not a strong foundation to hold us. We're becoming more sensitive too, because it's like neuroses. It's like growing neuroses happening. And so yes, it is powerful to unplug from all that and to disconnect so far that you actually don't have access to all the energies and the frequencies. Well, now let's say you're out hiking a ridge like you do, and now you're walking and you hear a bird chirp and you hear a snake rustle by, and you hear little chipmunks doing their thing. You're now, the energy that you're picking up on is a totally different, you're not in the neuroses of other people's emotions. And we're outside of that now, and nature doesn't have that to offer. Nature isn't offering emotional drama. um it's and so it's so much more simple. And that's, I mean, I certainly feel that when I'm offline, is it helps me rest my brain and helps. And then the information I'm receiving is primordial. It's like coming from the universe. That's
Right.
super out there, but wait, whoa, deep.
True. It's natural and it's digestible, and in a way, especially, I'm sure you're an empathetic person, because I can hear that when you say that you're picking up on people's energy. I think we all are, but especially folks who are especially just empaths, it is digestible to take in the energy of things that are natural and not human, rather than the energy and the emotions and the reactions of other humans that, even though they're natural, those reactions, those feelings, that our responses to this modern world that we're living in isn't natural. It's we're not supposed to be taking in this much information every day. And yeah,
Correct.
that's great, Jess. You have a
Yeah,
way of
it's information overload for sure, and it's emotional overload for sure. One of the best things that ever happened to me when I was young, I was a teenager in middle school, and I did not like middle school. I was an awkward teenager, and I was very insecure, and I was just, I just yeah, it was awful, and it kind of, so this plays out now in our life now, but middle school is this really great little example, this macro micro environment where here you are trying to fit in, trying to please everybody, making sure you have friends, learning how to socially operate, and yet you're insecure, all the feedback coming in. Well, because I was struggling so much, I mean, to the point, like really struggling, my parents recognized that there was something wrong with me and that I was depressed and going through a hard time. And they actually sent me to Outward Bound when I was 14, which is that, and I did a 3-week trek on the Pacific Crest Trail. And so here's this awkward teenage girl who's, I had friends, but I wanted so badly, I didn't feel good in my body. I always had I was always felt bigger and chunkier than everybody. I had big legs. They were meant to do stuff. But back then, my legs, I didn't know what to do with my awkward body and didn't have a platform. And when I went on Outward Bound, and this is an organization that still exists, it's a fantastic organization. They have programs for teenagers and adults. But you take a 14-year-old awkward girl and put her out at the start of the Pacific Crest Trail in Oregon, and say you're going to now hike. You're now going to hike for the next 3 weeks with a small group of people your age, and let's put a 40-pound backpack on you. And I'm telling you, that was the game changer of all game changers, because there is nothing that brings you into your power like getting away from the social structures and putting yourself into real physical challenges, that you have to move your body, that you have to think differently, that you have to be you have to show up. There is no backing out. You have to put one step in front of the other, climb. I mean, there was times where we had to use an ice axe to stop ourselves, down glaciers and rappel down steep hills, cliffside, and sleep under the stars. And at the end of the 3 weeks, they have you do a 3-day solo where they leave you by yourself for 3 days. And that time changed me completely. The time alone, where I didn't have the feedback, the constant feedback of insecurity, of what I was doing wrong or needed to do better, or how I needed to manipulate and adjust to fit in, all that was gone. And that was all gone even with the group I was in, even though they were also teenagers, both male and female. When you're out there together doing this hard 8-hour-a-day hikes with no toilet paper and none of the conveniences, you learn things about yourself and your resiliency and your power that I don't think kids in this day and age are getting that coming of age. So they're not getting their power. It's just a drain of their power, but this is a gaining of one's power back. And when I came home after that summer, or when I went back to school that summer, I was a completely different person. I could tell I stopped caring about what people thought, and people could tell I was different. It's like nothing could take my power away from me. I did things that were hard, and I did things that were extraordinary, and I knew I could. And so then all the little stuff felt it was so minor. So That was huge. And I feel like I'm doing that now as an adult. Like I'm actually going through like a phase 2 coming of age as an adult right now, which is really very similar to what I went through when I was 14.
That's so beautiful. What an amazing story. Wow. And the fact that still to this day it impacts you so much. Good for
Truly.
your parents for putting you in that. Thank
Absolutely.
God.
I, thank God. Yeah, absolutely.
So if
Truly.
people want to keep updated on your story and the real rewilding experience and learn about the Wildkind Academy, I'd like to take the next just last 5 minutes of your interview to plug yourself. What's going on in the future? What are your goals? How can people follow you and get to know you and get involved in it?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so the website is wildkindacademy.com, and this would be a great opportunity if you want to sign up for the newsletter. That would be a way that I'll be communicating with people who are interested in upcoming programs and courses. Also, I do a lot on social media. So Instagram, I'm Jess underscore Wildkind Academy. And so I always post a lot there. I do a weekly rewilding post where I share something I've done. That was my big goal of 2021, was to do one thing each week to rewild my life. And so I do a post about that every Sunday. And sometimes I'm learning a new plant, or I'm making some kind of food with a wild plant or a wild animal. Maybe it's a fishing trip or a hiking experience or whatever. It's rewilding, so it's pretty broad for me. And then every Tuesday I do a post about my journey on learning the path of the hunter. And so I try to give it lots of information out about just inspiration, I guess, around rewilding. And so Instagram's a great way to connect with me there. And on Facebook, Wildkind Academy on Facebook. And then this summer I'm diving into the Rewilding 101 course. So I am looking forward to launching that. And then as I'm meeting people and pulling together all of these things, the first thing is this Rewilding 101 course. I want to make that available online so that anyone anywhere could have this foundation of inspiration to begin making these changes that they might feel drawn to make, to just feel a little bit better and find those missing pieces and see what makes their heart just explode and come alive. And then I'll be always looking at ideas of rewilding courses. I would like to do retreats here at some point too. So once I get that rewilding course done, that would be the foundation for putting retreats together.
And you're launching the online rewilding course at the end of this summer, maybe the fall.
I would love to. Yeah, I'm taking a trip to Alaska to go salmon fishing for practically half of August. So I'm doing some pretty strong offline, but I'm going to get that I'm going to get that completed as soon as possible. And I'll keep folks updated on the website.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jess. I feel like I could talk to you all day long about this type of stuff.
Oh, we totally could, because even when we talked a year ago, we had so much to share with one another. And I'm a big fan of everything you're doing with your outdoor explorations and how you share that with people and your passion. It is, I love you. I'm a big wide-eyed, like, oh, what's she doing now?
I'm going to start implementing my once a week rewilding goal starting now. So you inspired me. I'm gonna do it if it's something small,
Totally.
Yeah, I love what you're doing, and it's so approachable, and I can't wait to share your story.
Thank you so much, and thanks for reaching out to me. I know we have soul sister connection, and it's great to see and share and talk on this space too.